Yo, what is up and welcome back. Today I'll be showing you guys how to play Six Forgotten and to add this comp into your repertoire. Master this comp, you'll gain a lot of LP. I want to be very forward right now. Forgotten, at the time of me making this video, this is not an S tier comp. This is not some amazing comp that you're going to abuse the meta with or anything like that. This comp is just a comp that if you have it in your back pocket will save you so much LP, will save you so many games, will win you unwinnable games, will take your games from 8th place to 5th place or to 4th place or a 6th place game to a 2nd place. I've done it so many times, and just having this option has netted me so much LP. I did this same thing with mastering Warlords really early into the season and mastering Darius, which is a comp that no one played last set until the end of the set, but it was just for fun because they buffed him a billion times. But just having this comp in your back pocket and having this option when the game is going really bad, the game is giving you no direction, will net you a ton of LP. And so let's talk about why that is. It is the most flexible build that I've found. There are so many different carries in this build that can pop off with the Six Forgotten tag. Specifically with Six Forgotten, people can deal a lot of damage in this comp. A lot of units can deal a lot of damage without having their optimal setup and their optimal items, which you can't say that for other versions of builds that use those carries. For example, if you have Draven and if you have Draven, you have terrible items on him in just a 2 Legionnaire or a 6 Legionnaire build, he's not going to do much. But you can have Draven with really suboptimal items, and he can top damage on your team and absolutely solo carry. I've seen Draven solo carry my team in specific fight interactions with no items with Six Forgotten. So that is what this build is. I think it's a lot like Warlords from last set. If you played last set. And like the way you played Warlords is you just have all these other units that you can carry. Like you can carry Vi, you can carry Katarina, you can carry Nidalee. It's a lot like that build, but with one difference. And the difference is Hecarim. Hecarim is the true carry of this build. It is the true unit that you build your comp around. Does he always carry the Forgotten comp? No, but he is always the foundation. Hecarim is the bedrock that makes this comp work. Because of the way that he works and how he can use so many different items, I always build my comp around Hecarim, and I think it's really hard to actually play Six Forgotten without having at least a Hecarim 2-star with good items. If you don't, you usually have to get out of Six Forgotten later, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So the win conditions for this board, for this build, don't pay attention to what's on screen right now. We'll talk about it in a minute. The win conditions for this, or top 4 condition, is going to be Hecarim 3 plus any of the Forgotten carries. It can also be Katarina 3 plus the Forgottens and Assassins, all that good stuff. Alternatively, this is like a top 4 version of the build. You can have Kat 2 plus Hecarim 2 plus random 4 and 5 costs that support your build. You can top 2 with that. It's really hard to first place. And then also you can have just Draven 2 plus the Forgottens and 4 and 5 costs. And in order to actually first place the game, you will eventually have to get out of Forgotten. But just Draven 2, 6 Forgotten with okay items, and then 4 and 5 costs that support the Draven. You can top 2 with that board. You can first place with that board, but more consistently, you'll first place if you pivot out of Forgotten. But we'll talk about that when we get to that. All right, now let's actually talk about early game. Let's talk about what's on screen in a second. So your item start for this build is going to be defensive. So it's going to be Chain Belt. That's going to be your best item start because Hecarim, just getting items on your Hecarim early is going to stabilize your board so much easier. The reason why I just chose Chain is because Hecarim can use 3 chains. We'll talk about Hecarim's like best items in a minute. And at the time of making this video, Assassins are really popular, AD champions are really popular, and then all of the AP units all use spell crit. So Bramble is like one of the best tank items in the game. Belt is just the tried and true, most consistent tank item. You know, building a Shadow Warmogs, insane. Belt is just an ultra flex item. After that, if you want to grab an offensive item, it's either going to be Tear or Glove is going to be your best bet. The reason why I say Tear is because Tear works on all of the carries, especially the early game ones that you're in your build. Doesn't work on Draven, but it works on everyone else. So like think Victor, Katarina, Viego, Rise. All of them can use Tears super, super well. And then Glove, all those units can use those, and it's the best component item when building Draven is going to be Glove. After that, you can use Sword. Obviously, Draven uses swords super well. Katarina can use swords. She can use 2 swords. And then Victor and Rise can both use 1 sword. Rise technically can use 2 swords if you build GA and Sojin. So those are going to be all of your item starts. I would never start Rod or Cloak if I wanted to play this build, but, you know, whatever. All right, openers. Now we're going to start talking about openers. Obviously, if you get a Forgotten opener with Hecarim, that's going to be the easiest transition, right, into 6 Forgotten. But a lot of times just playing around 3 Forgotten isn't very strong early game. So even if I get like a 3 Forgotten opener, I will try to like early level to try to get stronger things in around it, like Cavalier, stuff like that. But obviously the easiest transition is going to be playing a Forgotten opener into 6 Forgotten. But, you know, most of the time that doesn't happen. So if you want to push into Forgotten, some of the easiest openers are going to be Cavalier Hellion or Brawler Sins. So the reason why is for obvious reasons, because you get to play Hecarim. You just add Cavaliers here, like add a Sejuani. And then once you go to 6 or 7, you could just pivot out to Forgotten. You can just sell these Hellions, pivot out to your Forgottens, transition the items to Katarina, Victor, all that good stuff. Pretty easy transition. The other one is going to be our Brawler Sins. Is pretty easy as well. So you just play around Gragas and Kha'Zix as your core because those are very strong early game units. You put the Hecarim items here. You can put the Katarina Draven items here. And then as soon as you hit a cat, you just add a cat to the board and start putting items on there. These are just examples of some item starts you could have. Obviously, if you get Katarina from the PvE rounds, just play around your Katarina and you can play around Brawlers. Real easy setup. Or you can just play like Coven Cat or whatever, you know, you can play that as an early game. But these are going to be the easiest transitions. All right, now we're going to talk about moving into mid game and getting your actual 6 Forgotten online. So let's talk about if the game is going well. If the game's going well, you have 2 options. So what I mean by going well is you have like, you're on stage 3, you're on like 3-2, you have like 90 HP, you have like 40 gold in the bank, or you have 50 gold in the bank. Game's going super, super well. You have good econ, you have good health. Maybe you already have some of your Forgotten units you're playing around. You got 2 options now. You can slow push to level 6, and then once you're on 6, you just slow roll until you have Hecarim 3-star. If you don't know what slow roll means, it just means you stay at 50 gold the entire time. So you just roll until you hit 50 gold, stop rolling every turn. And then you just slowly get your 6 Forgottens online. If you're willing to play flex, you can play like, you can decide if you want to play Brand Cavaliers, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about specifically 6 Forgotten. And so you can just play around Cavaliers and you just slowly transition into 6 Forgotten. And then you don't go out of level 6 until you have Hecarim 3-star. Maybe you can hit Victor 3, maybe you can hit Thresh 3, and on the off chance, maybe you can hit Katarina 3, but it's pretty hard to hit on 6. That's one option. The second option is you go to 7 and you hard roll it down for your 6 Forgotten. And the reason why you can just hard roll it down then is because you can hit, you can reliably hit units like Ryze, Draven. You can sometimes hit Viego. You're going to almost guarantee that you hit Katarina 2-star, which is going to stabilize your board absolutely. And you can just 2-star. You can just play to 2-star everything and get the stronger units already in your board, so you can start really thinking about how to move in the late game. So it's like that. So those are your 2 options. But let's talk about if the game's going bad. It's really easy to play when the game's going well. Let's talk about if the game's going bad. If the game's going bad, you're going to go to 6 and you're going to roll it down. So let's show you some options here. Sorry, you're going to see some ads. I'm using TF Tactics. But whatever. This ad won't go away. I already own Adobe. Anyway, sorry. All right, so if we're going to 6, you have 2. If you're going to 6, like the game's not going well, you have like 70 HP, but you econned really well. You're on stage 3. You want to win stage 3. The biggest thing about Forgotten and the biggest thing about why it's strong is because this comp, you can hit it on stage 3. You can hit it on level 6 pretty reliably. Like I almost always hit this version pretty easily. And it almost guarantees that you're strong stage 3. If you hit the 6 Forgotten, you will be strong, and it usually means you're going to streak on stage 3, which will allow you to go fast 8. So this is the target board you want to hit. I will show you another version if you don't hit this version that you can play. And so basically what you're playing for is you're not playing for Hecarim 3, you're not playing for Victor, you're not playing for Thresh or any of that stuff. You are playing for 2 stars and to stabilize and win on stage 3 and stage 4. Or win on stage 3 and be decently strong on stage 4. Because since you lost early game, you need to win now. And so the idea is going to be you hit this 6 Forgottens. And so you'll just roll all the way down until you have like 2-star Hecarim, and hopefully you can 2-star all these guys. And then you don't need a 2-star Cat on stage 3, but if you can, you will absolutely have a free ticket to level 8. But if you can't, you just get Cat, try to get some carry items on here. 2-star your Hecarim, get the good items on the Hecarim, all the good stuff. We'll talk about best items in a little bit. Okay, I know what you may be thinking. If you've played the game before you get all hypercritical looking at items, do not think about best in slot whenever you're playing Forgotten. The whole point of Forgotten is to have this build that can spike really early in the game and gives you an easy transition into late game or you like play reroll Hecarim and you have good items. And the other point is it's flexible. So if you're trying to get best in slot items on all of your carries and you're playing Forgotten, you are absolutely playing the game wrong. There's nothing wrong with getting the best items on your carries until there is. So let's talk about it. Obviously, when you're playing an assassin, the best damage item is Infinity Edge or Cursed Infinity Edge. Okay, but look at my synergies. Do I have assassin? I do not. I have tested this quite a bit. If I have the option between building Infinity Edge or building Jeweled Gauntlet, and I have to roll on 6 to stabilize my board, I will always choose Jeweled Gauntlet. I will always choose Jeweled Gauntlet. This item, if I don't end up carrying Kat later in the game, this item can go on Viego, can go on Rise, whatever. Obviously, Infinity Edge is the highest DPS item on this, but there's a huge difference between playing 5 Forgotten plus 2 Assassins and playing 6 Forgotten plus 0 Assassins. There's a huge difference. The damage spike you get on 6 Forgotten is just so massive that that it's better just to put Jewel Gauntlet on here so you don't have to play Assassins on 6. It has saved me so much HP. If you end up building Infinity Edge here, you just want to get Assassin in as early as you can. So just don't focus too much on like, actually Infinity Edge deals more damage. Don't worry about it. This will save you HP building this. So getting this 6 Forgotten online, tank items here, carry items here, that's going to stabilize you. And then hopefully that can get you a ticket to level 8. Because what you want to do is when you level to 7, when you have this board, is you can add one of 2 things or one of 3 things. You can add an assassin to up your damage here, especially if you had Infinity Edge put here. You can play an assassin right here, or you can play Cavalier to support your guy over here. Or if you actually hit a Rise, then you can play Mystic if there's a lot of magic damage here. So you can play Rise Lux. So you just add that at 7, then you go to 8. If for whatever reason the game is just crazy and the game is so high roll, you might have to roll on 7 to get the better Forgotten units and to 2-star your Katarina. If you don't have 2-star Katarina, you may need to roll a little bit on 7. But typically once you hit this board, you can fast 8 after that, especially if you 2-starred this guy and you 2-starred most of these. If you 2-starred Kat, it pretty much guarantees you can go 8. You just add whatever you want on 7. The other thing that you can hit on 6 if the game is going poorly, you can hit something that looks like this. So you just play 3 Cavalier, same idea, tank items on this guy, damage items on your Kat. I put Infinity Edge this time because now I have the room for Assassin. And Infinity Edge, I can flex to my Draven or whatever, right? So you just play 3 Cavalier, 3 Forgotten, 2 Sin, and this is going to stabilize you on stage 3. But if you're playing this version, you will probably need to roll on 7 to re-upgrade your board to the 6 Forgotten. But hopefully you're holding Forgottens on your bench right now, and it's not going to be too hard to get it in. You want to roll too much gold. And then you can go 8 and build your comp out. So let's talk about going to 8 and building your comp out. Let's talk about 8. Okay, hit you up with another Adobe ad here because they won't go away. I don't get it. Okay, don't look at the items too much. I'm just showing you guys examples of items real quick. So don't pay attention to the items yet. Let's talk about with the units that we added to our board. So we obviously upgraded our Forgottens to the higher cost Forgottens, right? You get free Assassin from having Viego because he's a Forgotten. Okay, let's talk about the 2 units we added. We added Rel for Cavalier, and we added Kindred for Mystic. So this is just standard. So this standard, if you don't know what to add, if you add Rel plus a Mystic, that's going to upgrade your board, make it a lot stronger if you don't know what to do. But you have a lot of options here. If you end up carrying Draven, you know, one of these can be Mordekaiser, right? And it doesn't have to be a Mystic or it doesn't have to be Cavalier or whatever. And you just add Mordekaiser here. And if you wanted even more damage, you could play Mordekaiser, Diana. If there's a lot of magic damage in the lobby and you're carrying your Katarina, you're not carrying Draven or whatever, then you can just play Mystics here. You know, this could be a Lux instead, and you would just have 3 Mystic, super tanky. If you're carrying Kat and you have like a Kat 3-star, instead of doing this, you could just play full one-shot. This could be like Diana and LeBlanc, right? And then you can play Kat to one-shot the backline, and all that good stuff. So you can play that version as well, doesn't matter. So let's talk about the items real quick. Remember guys, do not focus on best in slot, but I'm just showing you guys some options, some builds, some flexible choices. Let's talk about Hecarim because he is the most important unit in this build. What you need on Hecarim, whenever you're building Hecarim, you need to think about this. I need 2 super tank items. So my 2 super tank items in this version that I showed you is Shadow Warmogs. That's probably the best tank item in the game, no cap. And then Bramble. At the time of making this video, Bramble is one of the best tank items in the game. And so those are 2 super tank items right there. And then the third item needs to be a way for Hecarim to kill people by himself. Okay? This is the best case scenario. You can build just super tank Hecarim, but just from my experience, it's way better if you have a way for Hecarim to kill units by himself. You can just play him with full tank. He does deal a decent amount of damage with 6 Forgotten. He could soften people up, but without a damage item third, he has a really difficult time actually killing units by himself. And you really want him to be a threat. Even at 2-star, he is a threat if you build this way. And so the best third item to build on him, there's a couple options. Is either going to be Shadow Titans, really insane. I don't need to explain it, I don't think. Shadow Ionic Spark is really good. It just buffs his damage over time. He's constantly zapping. He's magic damage reducing him. There's a lot of magic damage in this build, so that is an amazing option as well. Both of those are probably equally good. Maybe Ionic Spark's even better than this one because of the way magic damage works in this comp. It's pretty insane, but I end up just not having the components because I don't go for cloaks, and then I'll end up putting cloak on someone else, you know, like Draven or something. He can use cloaks pretty well. So yeah, and Dark Horse item you can put on here, Dark Horse, haha, get it? Like a regular Sunfire Cape can help a lot with letting Hecarim finish people off because they won't heal, cut their healing. You typically don't want to have Shadow Sunfire, even though the DPS is higher, because you're healing cutting Hecarim. But if a lot of people are already building healing cutting, then he's going to be healing cut no matter what. So you can build that if you want to. Shadow Morello is okay, but it does like destroy the value of Forgotten, so I typically don't want to go for that. And then, you know, if you don't have any of those, you can just build a super tank item third. Katarina, don't focus too much on her items, but if you can get like Shadow IE and Shadow Hodge, it's probably our best bet because she will absolutely in Forgotten. I like to play Kat to one-shot on her first ult. She will absolutely, with this item setup and 6 Forgotten, she will absolutely one-shot whoever she hits. With this item setup. So I really like this item setup. And then also if I'm going to pivot to Draven, I can just put these items on Draven because a lot of times I'll pivot out of Kat, especially if the game starts to go well on level 8, stuff like that. I will a lot of times pivot out of this board, which I'll talk about in a second. Let's talk about Rise. This item setup is just absolutely broken on Rise. If you get Dark Blue Buff GA, Jeweled Gauntlet, it's pretty crazy. So if you get that set up, a lot of times I don't ever play for Rise items. I think if you're playing for Rise items, you're probably going to go 8th. But sometimes you'll just get the setup for free. Like I've had it for free. What ends up happening a lot of times is I end up itemizing Victor if I get AP items like this. And these items are insane on Victor. If you're actually playing Victor 3, this is absolutely his best items. Like I will argue, you know, there's no arguing here. This is the best. You want him to cast a lot and you want his shield to be thick. If you get this guy 3-star and you have Shadow Sojin plus Shadow Deathcap, the shields are insane. Your team is unkillable. Victor also will one-shot whoever he actually ults. It's pretty insane. Typically don't want to build spell crit on him because it doesn't like make his shield crit, you know? So Deathcap's gonna be the best version, but if like Shadow crit is fine too. I've played that exact version, had Victor carry my game. But most of the time I don't play Victor carry and I just have Victor 2-star and maybe I built these items. And so later on in the game, I will just sell Victor and put these items on my Rise. Rise is insane with Shadow Sojin as well, and damage. So I'll just transition these items to this guy and I'll just put Thresh or Victor here. I'll just remake Victor or I'll keep Thresh. The reason why I have Victor in this comp instead of Thresh is just for corner bait. So if someone else is playing Thresh, Victor will get hooked because Kindred doesn't have enough range to actually work as corner bait. But also I can just play Lux instead of Kindred, you know, but Kindred's going to be better. So I like to play him for corner bait, for Thresh, and for an enemy Katarina to soak the damage in the corner for my guys. Draven, this is absolutely his best items in this version of the build. Cursed IE, Shred, and then Cursed RFC. You absolutely do not need healing on Draven. It is the biggest bait in the world. Because if I was playing Draven as my carry, I would have Mordekaiser in here somewhere. And especially with 6 Forgotten, the way Legionnaire works, you heal for a portion of the damage you did on your ult. Every single time Draven will throw out a spinning axe, when you have 6 Forgotten, he will heal. His next auto attack will heal him for at least 50% of his HP. Sometimes he heals straight the full if he's not healing cut or anything like that. So you absolutely do not need healing. If you end up building healing on him, it's fine. But these are examples of some really solid items and what your level 8 comp could look like. Obviously, you won't have all these items, but I've just shown you guys the options. All right, now let's talk about if you're actually going to pivot to just a pure Draven comp, which if the game is going well, what I mean by the game is going well, like maybe the game wasn't going well early game and I had to roll it down for a strong comp, and now I have a Draven. But I win streaked on level 6 and level 7, and now I'm level 8. I have a lot of money. I'm in a really good spot. I still have the same HP I had early game. I still have like 60 HP. I'm in an amazing spot. I will try to pivot out of 6 Forgotten eventually. And so let's talk about what you can pivot out to. But the reason why I say this is like, you can keep this build, and this build can get you like 2nd through 4th place usually. 1st place occasionally, right? You can go 9 and add a good unit in your 1st place. But typically if you want a 1st place and you're playing in like an ELO where people punish you, or you're playing with people around your skill level, so they're punishing you because they're at your skill level, then you want to pivot to a better comp. And this is what my in-game comp will look like. This is the most common in-game comp that I'll have if I end up 1st placing. So let's talk about it. So you just end up pivoting the Draven. And so notice what my Draven items look like. I just showed you exactly what it would look like if I was playing this version of the board and I was playing Katarina and I had these exact items or whatever, you know, and maybe I got this item for my Draven, and then I go 9 and I pivot out. Go 9 and I pivot out. I just sell the Cat and I just disperse her items to like the Viego and the Draven and the Rise, you know what I mean? So let's say I had blue buff on Cat instead of that Shadow GA. I would just sold her and put the blue buff on this guy, right? And then I just put the Shadow IE, the Shadow Hodge, and then I already had this item for my Draven. I put him there. Don't have any corner bait, but it's fine. It's late into the game. It's late into the game. There's probably no Thresh, and the Katarina player has probably died because Sins fall off late game. So I don't need corner bait anymore, so I'm over here. But if you really need some, if you really need corner bait, you just play Lux over Kindred. And what you'll add is you'll play around 2 Legionnaire. You'll play around really good units. Like Rel is just an insane unit. You don't have to play Rel. You have my Legion. You have a Legionnaire here. You add Assassins. Assassins and Dragon Slayer, obvious synergy for Viego, Dragon Slayer, and Draven, you know, right? You add a Mystic like this. We had the Mystic here from earlier. This is just an insane unit. Darius is an insane unit, especially since I don't have Shred. I need someone to Shred for me. And then you sell the Hecarim, and you just put the Hecarim items on any of these 3 units. You can put them, or any of these 4 units, honestly. Best is going to be on Darius, right? Darius is really good with carry items and tank items, all that good stuff. So you can go on Darius, you can go on Mordekaiser, and then after that, like preferably you want to put on one of them, but after that you can put it on Tarek, you can put it on Rel, and you can get a lot of value out of that. And so this is what your in-game comp can look like if you have to pivot out. All right, guys, that is it for the video. I hope you guys learned a lot. It may have been all over the place, but it's a pretty complicated build, and I feel like I did show you guys all the ins and outs. I love using this build. This build is going to be good. This build should be good most of the set, you know. It's this build that kind of goes under the radar unless it's really overpowered. When it's really overpowered, everybody knows about Vayne. Guys, if you're watching this video and you're like, you didn't talk about Vayne carry. Actually, there was a Vayne, the Vayne version of the build was the only one that was meta that I've seen. Okay, let me just tell you, at the time of me making this video, don't touch Vayne. Don't touch Vayne. It's so bad. I can't get it to work. I've tried so many times. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, but I don't think I'm doing anything wrong. It sucks. It sucks. They nerfed her into oblivion. At the time of me making this video. And Vayne is so easy to play, I don't feel like I need to talk about it. You just build attack speed and spell crit. Cool, you did it. Awesome. Anyways, that's gonna be it, guys. I appreciate all of you for staying this long. If you did, let me know in the comment section below. I always love reading that when people are like, hey, I made it to the end. So if you did, you can do that. Make sure to like below. I stream most days, twitch.tv/TrajanTFT. So yeah, hope you guys learned a lot, and I hope you have a great day, great night, wherever you are. Hope you're doing well. See you guys later. Bye-bye.